Hello, avid readers, book nerds, and casual observers. Welcome to the read-along brought to you by the Lit Round Table. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Anna, and this is our read-along of Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson.
Welcome, everyone, to Week 6, which is Part 2 of Part 5
Yeah. Lots of numbers.
of Tress of the Emerald Sea.
So we've got chapters 44 through 53. Before we get into our chapter titles, we do have a little bit of housekeeping because there's only 2 more weeks of this book left.
Mm-hmm.
We're almost done. So we need to know what our faithful Patreons are going to be voting on. Patreons? Patrons. I do that every single time. What are the patrons of our Patreon going to be voting for, Joseph?
So, the 3 books on the docket are one that is a returning book that has been on previous lists, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. We will get to it eventually, I'm sure, but we'll see if it's this time. We could continue on the Brandon Sanderson journey and read The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, which was another one of the books on the Kickstarter that also brought us Tress of the Emerald Sea. This one is not in the Cosmere, I don't think. I think this is just a fun little thing.
Okay.
I think.
Watch
I will have
Hoyd
fact
be
check
like
that.
the actual wizard.
Or Circe by Madeline Miller, which is a little Greek mythology inspired story, which is I've heard very good things about it online. I don't know a lot about the plot. I've just heard that it's very, very good, and it's on a lot of people's like top 3 books ever lists. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing those with us. So, as always, if you would like to participate in voting for our next read-along book, you need to become a member of our Patreon. That is always linked below. We'd love to see you over there. The cheapest, well, not the free, the $5, the cheaper level gets you voting access. So,
Yes.
anyway, so our chapters. We had chapter 44 through 53. 44 is The Fallen. Chapter 45, The Protector. Chapter 46, The Informant. Chapter 47, The Poet. Chapter 48, The Nightmare. Chapter 49, The Martyr. Chapter 50, The Murderer. Chapter 51, The Dragon. I think that's been my favorite chapter so far. Chapter 52, The Sacrifice. And Chapter 53, The Survivor.
Oh, those last 3 chapters, man.
The last 3 chapters were very good. I suppose The Dragon and The Sacrifice are both like top tier chapters as far as I'm
such
concerned.
hype. Such hype. Okay, we got to get there though. So we're like in the aftermath of that rainstorm from before, where like some of the Dougs got taken out, right?
Right. But
That's how they got taken out.
Yes, but she has not created the tree thing yet.
Right. No,
Yeah.
much later. But so she like has this conversation with Soleil, and Soleil is basically like, I don't want to lose any more crew. Like, it's my fault that they died, all this stuff, even though, like, the rain is unpredictable and, you know, all these things. It's not her fault, but she's just, like, taking the blame because that's her personality type.
Right. We also had a sweet moment from Hoyd where he tells us that even though he refers to all of them as the Dougs, it doesn't mean that he doesn't actually know their names. He just doesn't call them by their names for simplicity. And then he tells us the name of the fallen Doug, which was very sweet.
Yeah, so she's kind of like resolved to try to not let any more crew members die, which gets put to the test.
Almost immediately.
Yeah, in later chapters. So we've pretty much got I feel like it's kind of just broken up into 2 sections of like dealing with the storm and then dealing with the dragon.
Right.
Basically, the first section is just kind of, she's like, okay, guys, I have this way that I can take out the captain. I've invented a gun that can use the vines to trap her.
That's after the tree thing, though, isn't it?
Well, I mean, in her like internal dialogue, this is like what she's going through. Is
Yeah.
like she's already figured out how to make the gun,
Right.
and she's like, I'm going to try to use this thing to take the captain out. Because when she talks to Oolong for the poet chapter, like she's talking to him about that. Does she test it on him during that chapter, or is that later? I think she does.
She
test
does
it on
test
him.
it on him, and because she's gonna cut him out, and he's like, no, this is fine, this is great.
He just dissolves his way out of it like a
Right.
freak.
Right. Yeah. So, and she's been practicing like mind controlling the verdant vines, which is
Yes.
wild.
She's a spore prodigy,
She is.
says Captain Crow. She can like grow the spores, and she figures out that like if you keep giving them water, they keep growing, and she can like manipulate where they grow and how they grow and all this stuff. Like you're like a little vine charmer. Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
Yeah. Which she
yeah.
really puts on display during that last big storm in this section.
Absolutely. There was, before the storm, there was a moment with Huck where she's stressing out about like keeping up this facade of being a king's mask, even though she's not, but she like doesn't have the heart to tell them, and even if she did, they won't believe her at this point. They're like so convinced that she's this super spy. And he's like, well, okay, so like I did talk to some of the rats at the last port, and they told me about the Midnight Sea. And so we kind of got the lowdown from the rat community on what the sorceress's island is like.
Right. So funny.
There's the shadow monsters. Like she somehow makes it so there's always rain happening, so she has this constant stream of shadow monsters that she can manipulate. And there's these metal guardians that are like hanging out on her island too. And my first thought was like robots. She's straight up like an alien or something. Like she like flew in and she's using robots or something. She's a mad scientist. And she's always at the top of her tower, which is made of this super slick metal that nothing sticks to, that nobody can climb up. And I'm like, boom, that's her spaceship. and she's always at the top of the tower observing the moons through her telescopes on her spaceship. This is like exactly how my mind went as he was saying all this stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, she's some kind of wacky alien, mad scientist type who's like trying to study the moons or something. Or maybe she is a shard bearer, like I said before.
Yeah.
Like, or like she has like a shard or something. Some magic stuff happening, but I don't know, whatever. But yeah, we got a lowdown from Huck on what to expect in the Midnight Sea. And
Which
it sounds terrible.
he was also keeping from her a little bit.
Yeah.
To protect her, which we had a nice little like introspection moment of Hoyt explaining like that helps, but also it doesn't help because it feels very patronizing.
Yeah, he was like, if you ever want to both anger and demean someone in record time, keep information from them and tell them it was for their own good afterwards. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
He had some crazy. He always has these really crazy quips and things just thrown in there, but this section, I feel like he was in rare form.
There was a lot. Yeah, it was very good.
I always think, because sometimes when I'm listening, I'm like, oh, I wish. I want to like write that down, but I can't. I'm driving or something.
Yeah.
But there were some real zingers in there. So comment below your favorite Hoyd quip, if you can remember any off the top of your head. I love that guy. But yeah, she's kind of working with her 3 compatriots besides Huck on the ship, and they're like, okay, we're gonna try to mutiny, but now there's a storm coming, and they get stuck. Which is so cool for them.
Well, it's a very cool moment for Tress because she gets to really test her stuff, and B, she gets to show off. which
Yeah,
she
it was...
is never her intent, but
No, she, like, manages to have these hero moments on accident.
yeah.
And it's endearing. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
She manages to get these vines. Like, she has a big cannonball full of verdant spores, and she, like, drills a hole in them and in it and drops it in a bucket of water. And so the spores shoot out of the opening continuously until they run out. And it's just like she makes a vine platform that raises the ship up above the rain so that they won't get skewered on the spike wall that's coming with the rain. And it was, man, I love, he always does this with these crazy heroic moments where he makes you really, it's just so captivating. He does this in other books too, where he was like, normally this would be the moment where like everybody died and the story would be over for everybody. Everyone on the ship thought that they were about to embrace nothingness, and then they didn't. And this is what happened. And it's just like this, there's so many moments like that in his books that I just really love. And I'm just so happy that she got her hero moment. It was very cool.
It was
I
very
loved
cool.
it.
And they all think that surely she's dead, and they look over the side of the ship, and she's just hanging there like a wet rat.
Yeah. Accidentally heroic once again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the captain was like expecting them all to die, but she's already like gonna die, so she didn't really care. She was like, well, I guess this is it. But then she manages to save them, and now the captain's like, oh no, that was actually really sad when Hoyd's talking about how like the thing that she could never figure out, like how to get people to feel was like love. She could never figure out how to get anybody to love her, and she only ever like got people to fear her and all this stuff. It's like, oh man, how dare you make me feel bad for the villain? How dare you make me
Right.
feel things?
Right. Yeah.
It was sad.
I mean, even later, I know we're going to talk about this, but with the dragon, she's like, ask Tress. None of the crew like me. Everybody hates me.
And they all love her. They all managed to make she managed to make all of them love her in like 3 days.
Yeah. She tells a sore spot for old Crow.
Yeah.
So then after the vine tree platform heroics, Crow ends up spying on Tress and her buddies as they're plotting the next day's antics with her own little shadow ghosty.
Yeah, when Tress was scrambling to get her tree platform plan enacted, Hoyd mentioned that she carelessly spilled a few of the midnight spores on her desk. And he was like, mistake.
Yes.
But, they were all going to die. Didn't have time to just painstakingly with tweezers, like, pick up the midnight spores and put them back.
Right.
So the captain managed to get her hands on them. Or the rain just, like, made them happen. I don't know, because they did get hit by the rain. Either way.
But Crow was using them.
Yes. So Crow used, because basically after the heroics of her saving everyone's lives, they're like, okay, we have 2 days, supposedly, before we arrive at the dragon's lair. We need to mutiny now, because she is going to be desperate to get you off this ship or dead. Because you are now like a threat to her captain position, because everybody loves you more than her.
Yeah.
She will not suffer a rival. So this is the meeting that she manages to eavesdrop on with the midnight spores. And the next chapter was called The Murderer.
Yeah.
And like, oh, but with the Martyr chapter, it's worth noting, Tress was ready to like go live with the dragon for the rest of her life to save everyone else on the crew. Like, she did have that moment of wanting to do that, and then everyone else talked her out of it.
Yeah.
And then it was an interesting commentary when Hoy talked about like the difference between arrogance and self-worth, and how they're like two sides of the same coin, very similar things.
Yeah.
But she had self-worth in that moment,
Yeah.
which was cool to see.
Yeah. Just as a note, Hoyd is the poet.
Oh, right, the bad poem.
Which I thought was very funny that Ulam can just shut his ears off.
I think he literally pulls them off.
Oh, is that what he... It was very funny. Anyway.
Yeah. And he apparently Hoyd has a mullet.
At the moment, yes. Yes.
But he's like, please don't try to picture it.
Yeah.
Man. But yeah, then the next chapter was called The Murderer, and this was like as Soleil gets shot in the leg, and I was panicking. I was, but not as much as later. Okay, one thing at a time now. Soleil gets shot. First mate drags him up onto the deck so that the captain can basically do whatever she's going to do.
And yeah, kidnap Tress, basically, again.
Right. Because the captain's like, surprise, we're here. But yeah, like Ford gets his nose broken and his board broken
Yeah.
by the captain. That's just super rude, man.
Yeah, it's pretty low blow, honestly.
That is despicable. Soleil was already shot in the leg, so she's pretty much like out of commission. And then pulls out the flare gun that Tress had been working on. And basically, it was a sick game where it was like whoever can shoot Laggert first and kill him. Like, if you can do that, then you guys are fine. I'll let you off the hook, and throw some pistols to them. And they're like wrestling for them and fighting with the captain at the same time. And it all comes down to like Anne having a pistol.
Yeah.
And aiming it at Laggert and missing horribly. But then the captain pulls out the flare gun and shoots Anne with it, and I was so scared because it like hit her right in the chest, and I was like, "Oh no, are these vines about to like just like rip her to shreds?" But no, thankfully they only fell and like blew up on the deck and incapacitated her. But I was so scared for Anne. I don't want her to die.
I know. No, she's safe. For this section, anyway. Yeah. So then Crow takes Tress, and they leave the crew in pretty bad shape. As they're leaving, though, Hoyd tells Tress, "You still have everything you need," which was shockingly clear.
Yeah.
It took Tress a minute to figure it out, but we'll get there.
Yes.
So then we meet the dragon.
Oh my gosh,
He's
dude.
amazing.
Oh, that was so cool. Oh, I nerded out that whole time, man. Oh.
He dropped some Easter eggs that I think you probably understood more than I did. Because he mentioned towards the end of his chapter, he said that he is only afraid of one being on this planet, and it's not. And then he said a name that I think is Hoyd.
It definitely is. I think it must be Hoyd's like actual name.
Yeah.
Because Hoyd is like pseudo immortal somehow, and but he's still like a human.
Right.
But he also said, Hoyd said in a previous chapter that he was part of this like cabal, like this plot to like kill God. And so there's like some kind of crazy hijinks that went down, and now Hoyd is a pseudo immortal and he like hops around on these planets.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it's wild. But that has to be Hoyd. But he was like, and I'm not referring to Hoyd.
Right. I am talking about the sorceress.
Rude.
Yeah. It was very funny.
Yeah, so even the dragon is scared of the sorceress. Or like doesn't, at least bare minimum, doesn't want to interact with her and doesn't want to mess with her. I liked the whole like, oh man, there were so many crazy things. The whole idea that dragons have existed like forever, and they always like interact with cultures early to like make them afraid of them. Just, they like to have a couple of civilizations that will just like bend to their will at a moment's notice just to have in their back pocket, And I'm
Yeah.
like, that
Yeah.
is so crazy, dude. That is so cool.
Yes. Well, and the fact,
And
yeah.
the whole like, I don't know where that people got the obsession of them like hoarding treasure. Maybe it has something to do with like the metal that gets left behind, like when they're killed. And they mention dragon steel like on him, like the shiny silver stuff that like turns into his horns and everything. And also the name of Brandon Sanderson's publishing group is Dragonsteel. Like that's the name of
Yeah.
his. So I just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But no, the dragons hoard ideas. They hoard knowledge.
Yeah. Which is cool.
It's giving the big creepy owl in the library an avatar.
It is. It totally is. You are correct.
Yeah.
And I can't remember this dragon's name,
It's a weird name. I can't either.
but he has servants, but they're very well cared for. And they have like off time and they can read whatever they want. And honestly, sounded like a pretty good gig, if I'm being totally
Dude.
honest.
I would have been so down, dude. I would have been like, yo, take me. I will just give me a job, man. I'll contribute and I'll totally work for a dragon and have this big
And,
library
like
that I
free
can read whatever I
healthcare.
wanted.
Like,
Yeah.
you work for me, you're going to be healthy. No big deal.
I can heal you of any ailment.
Yeah.
Like, dude, please.
Yeah.
You might be a little morally ambiguous.
Yeah. It's like, Tress, you should come back here with Charlie. You guys can both just live here.
Yes, just go hang out with the dragon. It was very cool.
Yeah.
But
Had
man,
a big
okay,
main character moment for Tress, too.
yes, tell us what. So what did she have that was all she needed?
She had Crow.
And she had her wit and whimsy.
Yes. And the use of her mouth.
Yes, which
So-
we've learned from Hoyd. If you're going to pay someone for something, make sure the money can't talk.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. So she
funny.
offers Crow as a sacrifice to the dragon. And then there's some back and forth between like who he should pick. And he's very interested in hearing their arguments.
Yes.
But he does shush Crow fairly often. He's not really buying what she's putting down.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very entertaining. And I loved how cat-like the dragon was, like
Yes.
resting his head on his paws, like listening. He's like highly entertained by all of this.
Yes, yes.
And it was honestly, it was such a D&D moment. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, honestly it was.
they show up and Tress is like, and I have brought you this payment. Like, wow, dude.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
You should have gagged her, man. Rookie mistake.
And then the dragon though is like, well, like, he basically tells Tress that she's the better keep than Crow.
Yeah, because you're way more likable.
Right. And then she has this, he's like, why shouldn't I keep you? And she's like, because I don't want to be here and I'm trying to save someone I love. And he's like, I don't care about what humans love. That doesn't mean anything to me.
He says, I remember this because the line was just metal.
Yeah.
He was like, I care not for the hearts of humans besides what they taste like.
Yes.
It's like,
Oh, it was such a great line. I'm so glad that you have the line recall that you do.
For the most part, yes.
Yes, because that was epic. And then Tress is like, I should just pull it up so I can read it. I'm going to do that because it was so good. I don't want to butcher it. Un momento.
So you can find it first.
Who can find it first?
If I find it first, I'll just tell you what the name is or the page number is. Zixis is the dragon.
Yes. Okay, I found it. Page
Okay.
287. She was now the Tress she had become. Because I won't stay, Tress said. No matter what you do, I will not give up what I want for you, dragon. And he says, no one has ever escaped my domain. And she says, then I will be the first, Tress said, growing louder as she continued, because I can promise you this, great dragon, you will never be able to trust me alone. I will dedicate everything I have, every thought, every moment, every waking breath to escaping you. I will not calm down. I will not grow complacent. I will not lose my resolve. I will find a way out, even if I have to collapse your entire cave, even if I have to walk through the spores, even if it takes 50 years, I will never relent. And you, dragon, will eventually have to kill me to stop me, because I will get to the Midnight Sea, and I will find the sorceress, and I will save the man I love. And then he's like, the sorceress.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say that to begin with?
The sorceress, ew.
But anyway, I just like that moment for Tress. Epic. So good.
We also got some casual like dragon lore of like very few humans see them and very few humans see them in their true form. So I'm like, this might not even be his true form. Like, what is that?
Right.
And there's other dragons, but apparently they're killable because Hoy talks about like the metal they leave behind when they die.
Right.
What I'm gonna assume is dragon steel. Yeah, so there's just, man, I feel like just the whole world is opening up now in terms of like dragons, and I don't know, like the universe is just so rich. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So
But Tress had her moment.
crazy cool chapter.
So good.
And Tress gets yet another hero moment, and just a comical, just turning the tables on Crow in that way was just so satisfying.
Yeah.
It was so good.
But then she has to get a boon. And he's like, but it can't have anything to do with the sorceress. I don't want to be involved.
Those of you who have read the Stormlight archives know exactly what Brandon Sanderson was doing using the word boon.
Okay.
And that's all I'll say.
You're not going to explain?
It won't make sense. There's a moment where a character demands a boon in like of like this super powerful person in like the stupidest way at the worst possible moment. Like it was,
Okay.
it's just like notorious in
Okay.
like Reddit threads about Stormlight Archive of like the most annoying moment in the whole series.
Gotcha.
And for my boon, like it's like a
Gotcha.
Stormlight meme
Gotcha.
in the
Okay.
in the Reddit
Okay.
community.
That's fair. But he basically won't let her leave Crow without accepting a boon.
Right. Right.
Which I think is interesting that she even... So we had that whole deal with her and Ford, where Ford is like, I'm a hunter. This is why, like, I have... Like, the thrill of the bargain is so crucial to me. And now she's in another position of, like, basically having to bargain. And she's yet again being like, well, I don't really care. Just let me go.
And the dragon's like, too bad, pick something.
Right. Like, you have to choose. And she does, like, just the sweetest thing. And she's like, instead of one big boon, can I get 3 smaller boons? Mm-hmm. And then the chapter ends. And we get that in the last chapters, what she got from the dragon.
Yes. Yes.
So the first reveal is a pair of spectacles for Anne.
Because she has some condition that I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
It sounded real though, like a real life thing.
Yeah. And supposedly the glasses will help with her aim.
Yes. Now she'll maybe make a decent cannon master, since we all know that like Laggart's not going to be any good now because he's definitely treacherous.
Yes.
But so now I'm thinking Anne's the cannon master, so she's going to need them glasses.
And then for Ford, she got a new board for him, which was very sweet. And he is very thankful. And then she also got a piece of paper for Soleil. that says where her father is. So.
Very touching moment.
Very touching. Very sweet.
And now Tress is the captain.
And now Tress is the captain. And that's the end of our section.
Another reference that I thought was funny, not funny necessarily, that I just kind of tilted my head at was in the end when Tress says, don't, like, I'm going to be in the captain's quarters sleeping. Don't come and get me unless Death himself is at the door with nails in his eyes. And
That
so
is strange. Oddly specific.
unless Death is there with nails in his eyes. And the Inquisitors in Mistborn are like bad guys who, like, the magic system in Mistborn is totally different from here. But they're these people that have these two big nails in their eyes.
Huh.
And they, like, use crazy magic stuff. And I just thought, that can't be a coincidence. That the bad guys on a different world have nails in their eyes. And you just said Death with nails in his eyes. I don't know. It just seemed like too odd for that to not be a Mistborn connection.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, bizarre. But then Tress said, and even if it is him, see if you can stall him.
Our girl is tired.
Yeah. Great section. Maybe my favorite so far.
The dragon bit, hands down my favorite so far.
Oh, so cool, dude.
It was
So
very good.
cool.
It was
Such
very
hype. I love a good dragon. I love a good, and not even like a dragon fight. I love the dragon as like the Sphinx, you know, as this crazy mythical trickster that's like that you have to like bargain with and negotiate with. It's just, I love that so much. Very Bilbo, very Smaug.
Yes, I was just gonna say this is very Smaug coded, but like Smaug obviously likes treasure. So not the same, but like similar vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very fun. I loved it. I love this book.
Me too.
So what's the next reading section?
So for week 7, we're doing part 6A. So we're splitting up part 6. You're going to read chapters 54 through 59. So just 5 chapters for next week. Or next time.
I promise you we're going to hit the Sanderlanche and you're just going to want to blitz through the whole thing.
I think
like,
we'll probably end up pausing there.
Yeah. I promise you you're going to like stop and you're going to be like, well, guess I'll keep going.
That would not be the first time that's happened to us.
Yeah. It has happened.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very Scott Lynch also. I feel like the Locke Lamora books do that.
Yeah, and Night of the Midnight Stars, I definitely, like, the second to last section, I kept reading.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't stop. I gotta finish this thing. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Cool, dude. Well, I guess until next time, happy reading.
And we'll talk to you next time.
Later.